One of the questions that I typically get from advertisers is how does my lower funnel performance or my upper funnel performance impact my lower funnel performance? And this is a challenge that's plagued me from when I was at Meta, when I was at Google. This was always on the learning agenda and always a topic. And one of the things that happened to me that made me realize how important long-term branding and equity building was when I did a rotation in London. And when I was there, I went grocery shopping and I had to read every label, understand what everything was if I wanted to purchase the right things. In the US, I know red versus green is salted versus unsalted Land O'Lakes butter. I knew visually the representations and what they were, so I wasn't thinking as hard to make those decisions. In the book, Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, this is definitely a big theme of your conscious and unconscious, or your type 1 and type 2 brain, where you're either passively just automatically doing stuff versus actively thinking. And I believe this is really the difference between the brand and performance argument, which is your upper funnel, your branding, your high value units that really make you understand the value prop has to sink in and kind of create this level of, oh, I need butter, I need Land O'Lakes, I need this. So when I'm in the mood, when I'm in the not in the mood, but in the need state to do so, it's part of my competitive set. So with this, especially high value goods, infrequent goods, other things along those lines, it takes months and quarters to start building that brand equity. And performance marketing is measured in days and weeks, maybe a month, depending on what your click through or your last click attribution. You could do a 21-day window. For ad stock effects, that could carry over a couple weeks. But really, it's a much more short or finite period of time. So when we run experiments, when we're looking at outcomes, we're definitely focusing a little bit more on the bottom funnel, but that undervalues what is happening to your brand over a long term. And the answer to that is not market mix models. It's not experimentation, but rather it's understanding your brand awareness, your consideration, the price elasticity. All those pieces are something that requires long-term longitudinal tests or studies. And with that, your old data is sometimes irrelevant or less relevant than your newer data. So we have some professors, some people who are measuring these impacts of branded effects over longer windows, but it's a very sparse data set because you get 365 days worth of data if you're doing daily data, 52 if you're doing weekly data, if you're doing monthly 12, if you're doing quarterly 4. So that's a really small set of sample to be able to start extrapolating how your brand building activities is impacting your bottom performance. So it's a very tricky question, and it's something that I see a lot of posts on LinkedIn about, and I'm always curious to see how people are solving this problem. But the direct one-to-one relationship is not as clear because there's just so many different considerations that go into this of what's your distribution, how much is your product, how frequently do people purchase, where are you in your product life cycle in terms of, are you an emerging brand, are you an established brand? All of these questions really, really impact how this can be measured or can't be measured. So it's a very inconsistent thing that I think we're still early on cracking the code for that one.